I am Wes, modern mythology enthusiast and defender of the realm of toy collecting. This is Andy, my fearless friend. Fabulous secrets were revealed to me the day I powered up my dynamic mic and said, "Welcome to Fandom Power!" Andy became the mighty producer Andrew Daw, and I became host Wes, the newest pop culture podcaster on the interwebs. Only two others shared this secret, friend of the show and regular co-host Hank McLaughlin, and my lovely wife Kimberly. Together, we defend the realms of pop culture from the evil forces of toxic fandom. Hey guys, what's up? It's Wes and Andy back for another episode of Fandom Power. This time we are talking about the up-and-coming Masters of the Universe live action film that is scheduled to, tentatively scheduled to get underway sometime next year in 2023. Now, for those of you who have been following sort of the development of this film, it's been in the works for quite some time.
Yes.
At least 2007, when Warner Brothers still held the license, the film rights to that. So let's get started here. What we're going to do, we're going to run through a little bit of a timeline just to get everybody up to speed here on where the film is at and where it's might be going. So let's do this.
And once we're done, stick with us because we got a special guest today.
We do have a special guest. Do stay tuned. We're talking once again with Spector Creative Scott Toy Guru Neitlich, who, as you may or may not know, has maybe written a Masters of the Universe script. And we'll have a chance to talk with Scott about that a little bit later. So let's dip into the timeline and kind of bring you up to speed on where the status of the movie is at.
Mm-hmm.
And let's do this. All right. On the 1st of September 2009, Sony Films acquires the rights, the live action film rights to Masters of the Universe from Warner Brothers. In July of 2012, Sony then announces that a Masters of the Universe film with John M. Chu at the helm is set to go into production. Of course, John M. Chu was the director of G.I. Joe Retaliation and Crazy Rich Asians. Fast forward to October 2013, and John Chu exits the production with no explanation, although it is likely for other film commitments. We have a 3-year gap, and then later in January 2016, McG is set to be in talks to direct the film. McG, of course, was the director of Charlie's Angels, and more recently, the Terminator Salvation. All right. Later that year in June, actor Kellen Lutz from Twilight and the Expendables 3, also The Legend of Hercules, tweets out that he has a meeting with McG about taking the role of He-Man. April 26th, 2017, nearly a year later, Sony announces that December 18th, 2019 will be the release date for Masters of the Universe. Then on April 27th, 2017, Entertainment Weekly reports that McG is out and David S. Goyer of the Blade trilogy and the Dark Knight trilogy is now writing a new script. All right, by November that same year, Goyer is reportedly in talks to direct the film as well. But by February of 2018, Variety reports that David Goyer has passed on directing duties because of other commitments, but will stay on as an executive producer as well as a screenwriter, as the studio was very happy about the script that he submitted. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter in 2021, Goyer had this to say about his experience on the film. What I liked most about it was that it was mostly about a friendship between He-Man and Battle-Cat. The idea was there had always been He-Man and different recipients of the Sword of Power, and that Battle-Cat had always served at their side. And this was a new He-Man that Battle-Cat and many people didn't think was worthy of the sword. So it was a story of the character earning the sword, but more importantly, earning the friendship of Battle-Cat, who just thought this guy was a lightweight. I really liked it. I thought it was a fun story. There was a lot of humor in it. And it creeps up on you because Battle-Cat sort of grudgingly accepts him and it's Battlecat's acceptance of He-Man that gives this version of the story heart. April 2018, Variety reports that Aaron and Adam Nee are attached to direct. Now, Aaron and Adam Nee were directors of some smaller films, The Last Romantic, Band of Robbers, and more recently, out just now, The Lost City with Channing Tatum and oh my Lord, Sandra Bullock. That's her name. All right. In January of 2019, Deadline reports that Matt Holloway and Art Markham will rewrite a new draft. Now, that's the writing team that brought us Iron Man, Punisher, Warzone, and the still in theaters Uncharted with Tom Holland. April 29th, 2019, actor Noah Centineo goes on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and confirms that he is going to be playing the role of He-Man. And it sounded like this.
Dude, this is a giant. You're doing big movies. Is this a true rumor? I heard that you might be. Are you playing He-Man?
Yes. Yeah.
Masters of the Universe?
Masters of the Universe. I have an affinity for being in my underwear. I don't know what it is.
I love, dude. He-Man is one of my favorites. I grew up with all those toys. Wow. I was probably too old to be playing with them, but I still was. That's going to be giant. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very excited. It's quite an opportunity.
October 2019, rumors are swirling that Sony will sell the film rights to Netflix. And by January 2020, Masters of the Universe is removed from the Sony release calendar. On April 8th, 2021, Sony strikes a comprehensive first look deal with Netflix, which will set up the streaming service with a 5-year window to the distribution rights of Sony's theatrical releases in the United States beginning in 2022. April 29th, 2021, an agent for Noah Centineo announces that Noah has left the project. No reason is given for his departure, but speculation would say that he left because he was cast as Atom Smasher in the upcoming Black Adam for DC and Warner Brothers. Filming on Black Adam, coincidentally, actually started back in April 2021, right around the same time that shortly after he'd made his Motu announcement. All right. Then in the summer of 2021, there were rumors from Giant Freakin' Robot, and I hate to cite Giant Freakin' Robot as a source because they're awful, but for as many times as they are way off base, they do have a few times where they have kind of scooped the story. They reassert that the film is at Netflix now, and that Netflix moved through multiple scripts before settling on the right idea for Masters of the Universe, adding that the new story for their take will be better developing Prince Adam's motivations and personal connections to Skeletor, the ultimate bad guy for He-Man. It's also going to do more to develop the relationship between Prince Adam and Teela, giving a more rich romantic subplot than we've seen for our main character in the past. So pretty much what we got out of Masters of the Universe Revelation in a roundabout kind of way. On December 15th, 2021, Production Weekly shows a listing for Masters of the Universe, suggesting that the production is still on. The listing reads, "In a distant and mystical land, wimpy Prince Adam leads the life of royalty. Unknown to all but a few close friends and allies, Prince Adam is actually a hero, the mighty He-Man. Together with his friends, such as Teela, her father, a man-at-arms, Mysterious Orko, and his mighty friend, horse substitute Battlecat, He-Man battles the evil Skeletor and his minions for control of the world, and more importantly for the control, power, and honor of Grayskull, the mysterious castle from which He-Man derives his powers." And if that doesn't sound like an episode of the Filmation show, then I don't know what does. January 28th of this year, 2022, multiple outlets report that Netflix, yes, has officially acquired the rights from Sony, finally confirming the rumors that have been swirling since April of 2021. But Sony will keep the film rights in China. That same day, it's reported that the film will be based on a new script written by the Nee brothers and David Callaham. David Callaham, who brought us Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, as well as Wonder Woman 1984. And Kyle Allen, who starred in 2021's West Side Story, as well as the American Horror Story, will now play He-Man. In March of this year, so just a few days ago, even as we're making this recording, the Nee brothers are out making the rounds promoting their new movie, The Lost City, and everybody is asking them about their involvement with Masters of the Universe. Here's part of what they had to say on the Deadline podcast earlier this month.
Well, you said it with the fun. I mean, that's kind of the big way in, is that for us, it's like you can't do Masters without it being fun and colorful, and like it can be big and have big stakes and be a big, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok style movie. But like those movies as well, it has to be able to make fun of itself and be funny, because there's just, you can't have Mechanic and Ram Man and, those guys without being able to laugh.
Is She-Ra in the movie?
I cannot tell you that.
And any more castings outside of He-Man?
No, nothing to report just yet.
Well, the Nee brothers went on to further say that the film is a big process that's now going to take over their lives, and it's going to be a lot of fun. They've hinted that it will they'll likely roll cameras sometime next year in 2023 with a tentative 2024 release date. Now, speaking with Variety, they actually had more to say about Kyle Allen. They said he has such incredible emotional vulnerability. He's just an amazing dramatic actor, but he's funny like Michael J. Fox. Like he has this special thing, this energy that's very rare in an actor. Then you add on top of that, he's trained in like all forms of martial arts. He's a swordsman, does parkour. He can do everything. So the amount of Jackie Chan style crazy stuff we're going to be able to do in this movie is going to blow people away. Yeah, so there you have it, guys. That is a bit of a look sort of at the development process of where the film has been over the last few years. Some major gaps in there. No doubt, I mean, COVID-19 just coincidentally and conveniently also played a role in that, I'm sure. Certainly in stalling out anything getting started. But yeah, so by all accounts, it looks like things are moving forward. We just had 2 new animated series over at Netflix with Masters of the Universe Revelation and the new He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which are really kind of both in their own rights are pretty good. They're certainly entertaining, probably have helped to boost some of the brand awareness. But yeah, that's where we're at with that. So what do you think, Andy? Is it time to welcome our special guest?
I think so.
All right. Well, then let's get on with that. And all right. Once again, welcome back, Scott. So happy to have you back here on the show with us here at Fandom Power. I know it's been a while since we've had a chance to chat, and I know we had some difficulty going back and forth with email, but that's been all sorted out now. And here we are. Really excited to talk about, I guess it's a bit of a follow-up conversation to the one we had last year, but the same time was like March last year.
We should just make it an annual thing while the holiday. And,
That's right. Yeah. Last year, we talked about sort of the development hell that the Masters of the Universe movie had sort of found itself in over the years. I mean, the thing's been around since at least 2007 at Warner Brothers, but Sony picked up the rights in 2009, and it's just been announced in the last year that Netflix has come on board, at least as the distributor. And I wanted to sort of revisit the conversation we had last year. Last year, you said that this is a $250 million movie, and that Sony didn't have the chutzpah to put the money up behind it. Has your opinion changed on that since last year?
well, honestly, I wouldn't call that as much as an opinion as more as just, and I don't want to say fact,
Sure.
and not to like edit all of your words. And chutzpah is a perfectly legitimate Yiddish word for that, but it's more when you're looking at it from a business standpoint. It's not as much
Right.
like am I that is it just it doesn't add up.
No.
Like the cost to it's not like am I willing to take a chance that Titanic might make money. I'm gonna dump
Yeah,
all that
that's
money.
fair.
Versus on paper, like when you write
Right.
all of it doesn't, and you present it to the head of a studio, they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. I fund this.
Right. Interesting. I had suggested last year that at that time we hadn't seen Masters of the Universe Revelation, nor had we seen the new CGI kids show. They were sort of on the horizon. Now both of those have aired, and by all rights, I mean there was some fan pushback on Revelation, but I think overall both series have been enjoyable, and I think have added to the brand. It makes me wonder, because I had suggested last year that maybe there was a chance that the live action film might go over to one of the streamers, and now here we are a year later, and that is officially sort of the case of what's happening.
You know, I think obviously there's people at Netflix that are huge He-Man fans, and that always
There must
helps.
be.
You know, and you know, I mean, I've met several of them. I know some of them personally. So, you know, yeah, I mean, anytime you've got an internal champion someplace, it's always going to help a project. It doesn't take away
Yeah.
from how expensive it is, but putting it on, if it's on Netflix, not theatrical, you no longer have to worry about that $500,000 or $250,000 advertising campaign to
Right.
convince middle America who He-Man is. So, I mean, it definitely makes it more affordable for a, you know, like a streaming service. But again, I'm trying to think of another example. I can't think of another streaming service funded. I mean, streaming services are obviously funding a lot more movies these days.
They
they
certainly
tend to
are
be,
now, yeah.
Yeah, action or comic. I don't know. I can't think outside of like Amazon's Lord of the Rings adventure, for lack of a better word, that of a streaming service funding a project that's fantasy based, only
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it requires creating Pandora, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
You know, not just shooting Adam Sandler on an island for a month.
No.
Which is a lot easier than I mean, you've got to create an entire alien planet with monsters and creatures and special effects, and
Right.
it's always been about the bottom line. This movie has always been just about the bottom line and how just how expensive it would be to make it look the way we want. And animation is obviously a whole other kit and caboodle, because you could draw or computer generate anything you want.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there's no live action element.
I wonder, I mean, we've seen now with shows like over at Disney Plus, like The Mandalorian, and now the Book of Boba Fett, and the upcoming Obi-Wan. I can't think of the volume. There's another word for it, but the idea of these front projected environments that have sort of revolutionized the way that they can tell stories on a smaller budget. Jon Favreau has gone out and said that, other studios had been sort of experimenting with this technology, but Lucasfilm is the first company to put it together in a practical way. And I kind of wonder if that technology, and I'm sure it will be, but that technology could be probably fairly useful to maybe recreate or to create the illusion and the fantasy of the Eternia that we all kind of want.
Absolutely, and that didn't exist even almost a year ago when we spoke last. I mean, I guess
Right.
Mandalorian it wasn't spoken about as much, and
No.
100%. But and I'm devil's advocate because I know that you want to get the best info out there.
Of course.
Keep in mind with something like Mandalorian, or Book of Boba Fett. One, the environments they were creating weren't that. Like, yes, there were some CGI monsters that showed up, and they basically blew their entire budget on like those moments.
I'm looking at you, Rancor.
Most of what they were doing, I mean, most of it was sand and leaves. It wasn't
That's true, yeah.
that complicated. Also, Star Wars is way more recognizable as a brand than I mean, Masters definitely got a good shot in the arm with the current animated series. That helps a lot, but it's nowhere even close. And the fact that it's at retail now is probably the best thing that's helping, because it's billboarding it constantly.
the number of form factors at retail right now. Like, I mean, you've said it many times, and I mean, Andy and I were just out yesterday doing some retail therapy, if you will, and I couldn't believe the number of form factors that we saw just in one store. So yeah,
Mattel's been able to carve out 4 feet of space at Target, which is a huge accomplishment. I mean, that's not easy to do, and they've done that very cleverly by playing the long game. You know, slowly introducing form factors with the idea that, hey, even if one fails, we're going to pop in another one, with the idea that eventually there's going to be enough out there that we can claim, you know, a good section of space. So good for them.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Now, speaking about Mattel, let's revisit sort of the licensing thing, because there's that. Now, I couldn't find anything on this, and maybe things have changed, but the last time we spoke, Masters was up for purchase as of 2023, or at least in jeopardy of perhaps leaving Mattel. But it doesn't seem like that's really the case if they're full speed ahead on a feature film that is not even scheduled to begin production until sometime next year.
Well, so here's the deal with that. So the feature film has never been something Mattel has been directly working on. It's always been the way the rights got carved up.
Right.
Is the live action rights were separated from the animation and toy rights.
Okay.
So the live action rights were Warner Brothers, then with Sony, and now perhaps with Netflix. That is completely unrelated to what's going on with the toy rights and the animated rights.
Interestingly, though, as a counterpoint to that, there is a reference to Mattel Films being listed as one of the production companies on this
for the Netflix show.
Yeah,
or the Netflix proposed movie. Yeah,
yes.
So that's kind of like Mattel's involved, but they don't get like final say.
No,
if that makes sense.
Okay. It does, yeah. I mean, for sure it does.
Going back to Warner Brothers, they were showing them.
Yeah.
Some of it was occurred. Some of it, but then there's not like. But again, things could have absolutely changed since I've been there. It's been
right.
7-8 years. But when I left, the rights were reverting to Universal in 2023. Mattel tried to buy them back. Universal said, and the live action was stalled out at Sony. That was the last I know. That was when I left. So who knows what's happened since then? I can only report on what I know.
Andy, you had brought up a point. We were talking yesterday that Universal had just signed a big deal with Netflix.
I think so, yeah.
So I don't know if it's maybe similar to the first pass or the first look deal that Sony just signed with them. Who knows? I mean, if that's the case, then that may actually give the film production the security it needs to move forward in a meaningful way, and not continue to languish in what's the term, development hell, as it's been for at least 2007.
It'd be great. I'd love to see it.
I absolutely agree with you. I've been waiting for this my whole life. Well, your time at Mattel, when you were the brand manager for Masters, you had said last year that you had screened several scripts over your time there. Are you able to talk about any of those?
I don't know. Is the short.
That's a fair answer.
About, I think, there were a lot of, there were some that were rewrites, took it in completely different directions.
Right.
Honestly, it's been so long since I've read any of them that to be able to say what happened, like when you've read like 10 scripts all about the same subject blend, and it's hard to remember, like, wait, what happened in one of them? For like one of them had Beastmen as the enemy, the other one had time travel, but I don't remember which.
Okay.
I mean, they've back what people think. They've been takes, but they've kind of. I think the universal thread is always remaking the brand, in sort of the director or writer's vision, and this is kind of one of the things that always sort of bothers me with comic book and fantasy movies in general. When you're adapting a book, like say Tale of Two Cities or Pride and Prejudice or anything, right? Like you're in English high school.
Yeah.
Well, with it, you're going to just basically tell the same story. And it feels like whenever they make a comic book movie or a fantasy movie, the studio, writers, director feel like they have to change the story and make it their own. I'm like, what was wrong with the original story? Why can't you treat this like fine literature and just adapt the existing story?
There's always this argument, and maybe it's not so pervasive now, but we've got to make a movie that's accessible to the general movie-going audience, which I don't necessarily buy into, because that's not who you're making it for. But again, you did say it is about the bottom line.
That's actually that I think a lot of toy collectors have when they go into the aisle and they see, Masterverse series or Marvel Legends hanging on the pegs. And they think, oh, that's for me. And it's sort of that same fallacy, is that the majority of moviegoers and the majority of toy buyers are not the us's of the world. And like we will create opening weekend numbers for them.
Yep.
But beyond that, it's the general. And
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Look, well, I feel you don't need to reinvent. Yeah, the He-Man story. Having, like if you look at the first X-Men movie, right?
Yes.
The Bryan Singer film.
Yeah.
They used Wolverine in that movie to bring the audience into the X-Men world. Like, he represented the audience. He bring, there's mutants and there's a mansion and a school and all et cetera, right? So when that's actually the take that I did on the He-Man movie. That's specifically why I took that route, was finding a character that would be the audience that could bring them into this crazy foreign world. Because for us, that's how the mass public would see this, as like, oh, that's a giant bee guy and a muscular dude running around in furry underwear. But to us, it's off in He-Man, and that's always where that's that gap that we tend to overlook. So invested in the story, we forget that 90% of the people going to see this movie would have no idea who either of these characters are.
It's so true, man. I laugh because you've said it a few times on your channel about, specifically where the toys are concerned, about how kids coming to the brand later on, they could find hordes of Buzz-Off, but they couldn't get He-Man. And I laugh because yesterday when we were out, the one store we were in, that's all they had was the Origins Buzz-Off. And I instantly thought of you and I couldn't stop laughing.
Oh no, I'm agreeing. Same thing. Yeah.
Now, I know for your viewers are well aware of this already, but I know for our viewers, maybe people don't realize this, but you wrote a treatment and several pages of script for your own film as a pitch. Any chance you can sort of talk about that just for the sake of our viewers?
Yeah, I mean that I can completely talk about, especially because it's out there in the public. It's not.
Yeah.
I didn't write that while I was out, so it's not something alone. And it was basically after reading so many scripts and so many takes of inventing the franchise. I was really like, look, this is, if we were going to make a major live action He-Man movie, here is my take on it. Here's how I would do it. But I did it very much from an approach of, okay, there's got to be some fan service in there, like He-Man standing on the drawbridge holding up the sword at the transformation.
Yes.
But yeah, so I was saying, similar to the original X-Men Bryan Singer film from, what was that, 99, 98?
Yeah.
They used Wolverine as a way of bringing the audience into the X-Men world.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, there's, it's not just that there's other mutants, but there's a whole school, and they have a blackbird, and they have training rooms, and, a cheese buffet, and all of that. And so Wolverine got to experience all of that for the audience. So in the treatment that I wrote, it was the same thing with Marlena, and especially since in the story, she's from Earth. So she represents the audience and bringing the audience to Eternia. That way, this strange world, there was some kind of anchor to hold on to.
Right.
thrown into this craziness, and that was what her character represented.
Right. And what a great gateway character too. I mean, having that as she is from Earth, it just makes perfect sense to do that, as opposed to what they did in the '87 movie and then bring those characters to Earth, which definitely was a cost-saving measure.
And that's what it was exactly. That's not the way the
Yeah.
movie really was. But once they looked at exactly the same thing, once they looked at the budget, they're like, "Crap, we can't shoot on Eternia." Yeah, that's exactly what the new film is going through.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And that's where that's where I wonder if, if Netflix will, kind of replicate that technology that they're using at Lucasfilm, if that'll play a role. Who knows where we're at here? We're 8:40 now. I don't want to take up like a whole bunch of time. So, maybe do you have time to hang out and play our little game with us?
Yeah. No, I don't have a super hard cutoff at 9. We can go a little bit over.
Okay, well, I just want to be respectful of that and not abuse you.
But yeah,
Okay. All right. So, one of the things that we like to do here on our on the show, and we've done this a couple of times, is we've run some fantasy casting calls, and with the prospect of the live action film, sort of, on the, I don't want to say the foreseeable future, but on paper at least, it's the foreseeable future. Now seems like a good time to put our 2 cents in and fantasy cast our very own version of Masters of the Universe. And I took the liberty, I sent over a short little cast list last week to you to have a look over. And what we'll do is we'll go around, sort of the 3 of us here, myself, Andy, and you, Scott, and we'll put our choices out there for each of the characters that we've got on the list. And we'll see if we have any matches or any weird choices. Certainly, I've got a few that'll probably be worth a laugh. So yeah, first up on the list, we want to talk about if we're going to make a Masters of the Universe movie, we got to have our principal hero. Of course, that's He-Man. And yeah, Andy, I don't know. Do you want to go first,
I can go first.
or should we get Scott to go first as our guest?
As our guest, yeah. Like, go ahead.
Put the pressure on Scott. Go first, Scott.
the thing is, and I think with the movie holistically, I know you're like waiting for me to say, Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. I honestly think that the property itself is kind of the star, and going with unknowns is a wise, because that way it's not about the actor and actress. You're going to see a He-Man movie. I mean, they've done this successfully with a lot of franchises, and look at Avatar.
Yes.
Like the lead was, that was like almost practically his first starring role. So
right.
You're much. That's the approach that I would take. Is looking at the property as the star and casting. You're going to want to throw in like a couple. Your Sigourney Weavers, like with Avatar. There'll be some characters showing up, especially in like sort of secondary roles. But for the leads, I would really go for unknowns.
That's interesting. See, I didn't. Oh man, now you've thrown me for a loop, because I totally took the approach of like, if I was making this movie today, and I had like unlimited budget, because that's what it is in a fantasy cast, and I can have whoever I want. I tried to cast the movie as if we were going to roll cameras tomorrow. So for me, anyway, where He-Man is concerned, I kind of split it up here. I mean, I don't think that He-Man and Prince Adam should be the same actor. I think they should take the Shazam route, and they should have Adam as a much younger or smaller character that, you can really appreciate the transformation. So for He-Man, I'm going to go with a Chris, and it's got to be Hemsworth. That being said, if you're going to have a Prince Adam, you can look at it this a couple of ways. One, you could cast Adam as Chris's younger brother, Liam, because they have a similar look about them. At the same time, if you want somebody who can play young, I can't think of a hotter young actor right now than Tom Holland as Prince Adam.
So you basically want to go for Spider-Man and Thor,
huh? Yeah, more or less.
Or for those of a more literary merit, Heart of the Sea.
Heart of the Sea. Yes, that is true.
Every time I watch that movie, I'm like, it's Thor and Spider-Man on a whaling boat.
Yeah, exactly. Andy, where are you at with He-Man?
Oddly enough, I landed on Chris Hemsworth too.
It's hard not to.
Yep.
One of the challenges of fantasy casting this movie, it's like, you know, you run through all of the, like, who's a big up jacked up guy that can act.
But and honestly, both of those, Tom and Chris are. I totally see where you're coming from, and just to overlay on that, gotta go. My thoughts about going with unknown. See, not that either one of them would be a bad choice, but now you're going to see a Chris Hemsworth film.
That's right. Yeah.
If you will. I mean, he cared like that. I'm joking about the Moby Dick movie, but like nobody went to go see that movie except for me because they're a fan of Moby Dick.
That's right.
That movie because they're a fan of Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you run into. Are you going to see a Schwarzenegger movie or are you going to see a He-Man movie?
That's a totally fair assessment. I guess, there is something to be said for your star power draw. In which case the rest of my list is just like a cavalcade of like, ooh, this is like icing on the cake.
That approach. I mean, I'm not knocking that at all. And I think that, I totally agree with if you're going to go with a muscle bound actor,
yeah,
sort of sniveling teen hero, those are the two best candidates.
I did say this though, like if I couldn't get Chris Hemsworth, I really thought Alan Ritchson, who is currently starring in the Amazon Prime Jack Reacher series. Wow, that guy, there's a lot to be found in him, and I think he would also make a suitable He-Man. What do you think, Andy? Should we move on to the next?
Yeah, just move on.
All right. So next up, who are we talking about next?
I do agree with your whole Bill Bixby route of having two actors.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when they did Shazam and casting, Zachary Levi as Shazam, and I can't think of the young fella's name as Billy Batson. It was I totally bought into it. I absolutely bought into it. Almost the same way as the. Have you seen the Adam Project?
No, it's on my list. The Netflix one with Ryan Reynolds.
The young kid that they have cast to be the young Adam. It's uncanny, the mannerisms and the way that he carries himself, that it's completely a young Ryan Reynolds.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic, and you should watch it just for that alone. Okay, so next up on our list, I mean, He-Man wouldn't be complete without without the mentor character, without his Obi-Wan, and of course, the Obi-Wan to He-Man is Duncan, Man-at-Arms. Andy, what do you think, Man-at-Arms?
For my Man-at-Arms, I didn't go physique, but I did go like a gristled old voice that could be, fatherly.
Yes.
But he could still kick your ass. And I went with Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott.
I was just to be like the guy. The way you were describing that, I'm picturing Big Lebowski, the end scene. There you go, Sam Elliott.
That's an interesting choice. I went a completely different way. I mean, I wanted somebody who could embody the physicality of Man-at-Arms. Now, they don't all have to be jacked up, huge muscle-bound guys, but they should have some presence. But again, I wanted people who can act. And I kind of went, maybe this is maybe not against type for this guy. But for me, I think Man-at-Arms, I would cast Daniel Craig. Put a beard on him, give him a little bit of a mustache. He's got a pretty good range. And I think he could pull off fatherly quite well. And then revert to Bond and kick your butt.
What about Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton. Oh, that is a fantastic choice too. Mind you, you could put Michael Keaton, in anything and it gets better. He's a fantastic villain in
yes.
Underrated villain in the rebooted RoboCop, I think. All right. So yeah, that's Man-at-Arms. Any other thoughts on Man-at-Arms, Scott? Or are you still sticking with nobody?
You got Man-at-Arms.
Not a nobody, but
Michael
that's the kind of role that you could ground in someone like a Michael Keaton.
Yeah, for sure you could. Yeah.
Sam Neill, where you have a known actor that's sort of, because they're the mentor, they're holding things together.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's more like He-Man and Teela I would cast as unknowns. But then, like, you want somebody like Skeletor's got to be a really good actor because he's got to hold things together.
Totally agreed with that. I have an interesting approach to how I cast him, but we'll get to that. Well, we've just talked about Man at Arms, and I mean, Man at Arms, of course, with his stepdaughter Tila, somebody who could credibly play that role. What do you think, Andy?
For mine, I went with Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh, that's a good choice. She's got to be able to play the captain of the guard, and still have an emotional range to be vulnerable at the same time.
Yeah, and her portrayal through the Hawkeye series, just, I don't know, from start to finish, it makes you like the character more and more and more. So I think she could, portray that in the Masters universe.
Oh, that's very interesting. It's funny you say that because I was a page right out of the same book, because I went with Florence Pugh's older sister, Scarlett Johansson. I think her work on the Black Widow as Black Widow, definitely she's got the physicality for it. And you put her in red hair and it's a hit.
True.
What about Katie Sackhoff?
I like Katie Sackhoff. I mean, she's a firecracker. I loved her in Battlestar Galactica, so that totally works for me. I would totally, I would go with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on here. Where are we at now? Now, she did have red hair in The Mandalorian. That's true. Let's round out the triumvirate there. The triangle with Man at Arms, Tila, and of course her mother, Duncan's love interest, the Sorceress. The Sorceress of Grayskull. Andy, what have you got?
For mine, I went with Angelina Jolie.
Really?
Yes.
Now, did you base that on her performance in the Eternals?
Partly the Eternals, partly from what was it? Tomb Raider.
Okay.
And a few other roles. I know she's got a range that, I don't know, doesn't really get showcased a lot.
No, that's true. Mind you.
She presents herself with like grace and elegance, which I think the Sorceress needs.
I agree with that. That being said, and at the risk of falling into that pitfall or that hole, I dipped into the Marvel book one more time.
Tilda Swinton?
No, not Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton never made my, didn't even come up on my radar, but I really thought Michelle Pfeiffer as Hank's wife, as Janet
Van Dyne.
I thought she was fantastic. She really, to me, had the motherly aspect down, which is pretty good considering, it's a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's great. I think Michelle Pfeiffer is completely underrated. Like, now that she's an older actor, maybe not showing up in as many productions anymore, I think she'd make a fantastic Sorceress.
Yep, no, I could. I hate to say Tilda Swinton because like that's so typecasting now, but
isn't it?
It works for me.
Okay, that's a fair choice.
Magic leader and everything.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna stick with the magic theme because, as powerful as the Sorceress is, what is a He-Man movie without your court jester? And of course, we're talking about Orko.
Well, that would be a 1987 movie then.
It would.
I would hope that we have a more faithful representation of Orko this time around, and not supplant the. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the Gwildor character is pretty cool, and I love Billy Barty. So, but I would hope that we get a much more faithful representation this time around.
Well, I mean, that was budget. They wanted that was supposed to be Orko.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that case, what if Billy did the voice?
I would be totally down for that because I mean, again, I think Billy Barty, everything that he's in, he's just so good in.
Yeah, I think Orko is going to be a voiceover CGI character.
I agree with that.
So it would definitely be, like a nice fan service to have Billy do that, or Andy Serkis could do it.
Sure.
Honestly, only Dark Hamill could do it. I mean, you've got to get somebody who's a good voiceover actor.
Yes.
Like there's this whole, ever since Aladdin, there's been this whole trend to just take, funny actors and give them lead roles and things like Will Smith.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work. And I remember Billy West, who does a lot of, people know him from Futurama.
Yep.
But he's very passionate about voice acting, and like you'll talk to him, he's like this whole trend of just giving Hollywood actors voiceover. It's like it's a skill set, voice acting, and not everyone can do it.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I've watched several episodes of Talking Tunes, Rob Paulson's show, where he interviews other voice talent, and I mean, they have a lot of these actors have a similar sort of sentiment about voice acting, and it's like, well, you call it voice acting, but the reality is it's acting. And Rob Paulson, Kevin Conroy, they all have that similar outlook. Like, to be a good voice actor, you kind of have to be a good actor, because you don't have the luxury of physicality and body language, but you still have to get that across in the vocal performance.
And some actors can't do that.
No, it's as you say, it is a skill set. What do you think, Andy? We're talking Orko. What do you want to do with him?
With my Orko, I went with Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Oh, I can see that. I mean,
He's got good range.
We're talking about voiceover. We're not talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Neil Patrick Harris in an Orko costume running around. That's interesting. I got a couple of people on my radar. I couldn't decide. I wanted the Orko character has to be able to be tender at times, right? I mean, he has those moments where he can be super serious. As we know, sort of the court jester buffoonery is a bit of a ruse to sort of,
disarm.
Yeah. So I got two actors in mind, and I kind of hold them on equal stature. One is Jack Black, and then the other one is Josh Gad, the voice of Olaf from Frozen.
I could see that. I could see Josh Gad.
Yeah, my wife came up with that one, so kudos to her. Thank you, honey. That rounds out our heroic warriors. Let's we'll move on and dip into the evil warriors now. Now, I guess at the top of the pantheon there. I mean, if you've got He-Man on the good side, you've got the eternal struggle between him and the bad guy Skeletor. But just like He-Man, you could separate this role into two people if you wanted to explore the Keldor origins. How did you approach it, Andy?
I did not split them, but that's me. For both Keldor and Skeletor, I went with Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Well, I actually did split the two because I think that Keldor, depending on who you're talking to, is kind of, it helps to know who that person is to understand where he came from. So my Keldor would be Mark Strong, who was Sinestro in the Green Lantern movie. More recently, he played Merlin in the Kingsman series. Fantastic actor. I think he would he certainly has the look of Keldor. He'll need a wig, of course, but that's okay. And then again, for moving ahead into Skeletor territory, you could, if you wanted to, you could body double Mark Strong as Skeletor, but I think the face would serve better as maybe a performance capture piece. And of course, there is no better performance capture actor than Andy Serkis as Skeletor.
And I'm actually not that off from you of the idea of, Skeletor could be, absolutely, like a lot of CGI. And if you're doing that, it opens up almost anyone doing the voiceover.
Right.
It doesn't even have to be Andy Serkis doing the voice. But I'd throw out, not I know we're dipping so much into Marvel, but what can I say? Marvel scoops up. Tom Hiddleston could.
Yeah.
If you're doing a voiceover, Corey Burton, who does Cad Bane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That would be creepy as Skeletor.
Oh, he would be creepy. He's creepy as Cad Bane.
Skeletor needs to have that confidence thing. If he sounds like whiny, no one's needy. But if you think about Cad Bane's voice, it's very much like I'm in charge. Like nobody else, give me any ideas here.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. That's a great choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. Well, if He-Man's got his own sorceress, then we know Skeletor is going to have one too, and of course that is Evil Lyn. And Evil Lynn requires, somebody who could also play a quasi love interest. Where are you going to go with that one, Andy?
I dipped right back to Revelations. I want to see Lena Headey in there.
It is really, really hard, having seen Revelations, not to pick Lena Headey. And I agree with you. If I had to pick somebody else, again, going back into the Marvel playbook, Kate, no, was she in Marvel? She did something in Marvel, didn't she? Kate Blanchett? Sorry, Lord of the Rings. Kate Blanchett. Yes, Kate Blanchett, I think, could be a decent Evil Lynn. But yeah, it's really hard not to pick Lena Headey.
Wasn't she Hela?
Yes, she was.
In Ragnarok.
That's right, she was.
Yep. Yeah, no, I could see how. I mean, same thing. Like you've got your good guy magic wielder in Tila, and then bad guy in Hela. It's like, yeah, typecast.
I think that's sort of the pitfall you sort of run into with this. All right, so
Hilda Swanson and we can see them like face off and have like a magic battle.
You seriously? That'd be awesome. All right, and I mean every evildoer must have the henchmen and muscle, and of course there is no more bigger muscle in the Evil Warriors than Beastman. Andy, where are you at with Beastman? What do you think?
With Beastman, I went Growly, and I landed on Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Just based on his 300 performance, like Growly, aggressive, physical presence.
So it's not Mike Bannon. Interesting. I had a couple different thoughts on that. I thought, there has to be a physical presence because I mean, Beastman is obviously the kind of the muscle of the crew. So I went with a couple of things. First off, I went right to Jason Momoa. I mean, and not to speak poorly of the man, but that his pronounced brow. I mean, think of Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones, and then just add some fur on that, and I think that he would make a very credible Beastman. Alternatively, if you want somebody who can fight, Michael Jai White. I think either of those I'd be happy with.
Spawn?
Yeah, the Spawn actor. Yeah.
What about kind of working backwards from voice, but also fighting ability, either Vin Diesel or Dwayne Johnson?
I really tried to stay away from Dwayne because I just didn't know if I'm really anxious to see what he does with Black Adam, because some of my favorite Dwayne movies, like still to this day, The Rundown, the action comedy, The Rundown is by far my favorite film that he's ever done. Jungle Cruise is a close second, by the way, but I don't want him to get in there and ham it up, even if the role does kind of call for a little bit of ham.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard though. I don't know. Definitely got star power though.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I would populate, like those secondary characters with the whole star power.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna stick with the secondary characters, and we're gonna move on to the I guess Man at Arms counterpart, and of course that's Triclops. Andy, what do you think for Triclops?
For my Triclops, I dipped back into the Revelation pool again, and I did go with Henry Rollins.
I actually thought about Henry Rollins too, and I'm like, nope, I don't want to do that. I don't want to keep pulling. Yeah, he was great as Triclops. I just,
Yeah, he's got the physical presence too.
I agree with that. Yeah. And he can do, I mean, he's got range.
He does.
I went a different direction. I went somebody who's a little more lean, but who's played a pretty decent villain, but who's also done, some starring roles. I went Frank Grillo.
Nice.
As my Triclops. He did a direct-to-home media movie. It was on Amazon last year. Can't even think of the name of it, but he was really, really good in it. Yeah, Frank Grillo. That's my Triclops.
Cool.
It might be weird, but what about Benedict Cumberbatch?
Oh,
like
that would be a
tech villain.
Yeah, he would be like so like almost like super smart, super. Think of the role like when he played Khan.
That's
in
what I
Star Trek. Yeah. I'm totally with you on that. That's a great choice. Oh man.
Plus his portrayal of Smog.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah.
Like the evil intention.
Well, that's true. He did play a dragon. All right, and that brings us to our last one, and of course the final choice on the docket for today. We're talking Trapjaw, arguably another muscle guy. He's our cybernetic henchman. What do you think, Andy?
For mine, I went with Tom Hardy.
Oh, I tried to get Tom Hardy in on my list, and I couldn't find a way to do it. That's pretty good.
I figure with his work on Venom, on The Dark Knight, and Lawless, like he's got enough range. He's got the physical prowess for it.
Right.
And he's got a little bit of comedy in there too for those necessary parts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He can pull comedy off. I went with a more blunt choice, and really just based on the other roles that this person has had. I went with your other big wrestler, and I put Dave Bautista in the role of Trapjaw. Arguably, he could play a Cronus too.
Yeah.
I mean, look at when he played the Bond villain. I mean, I think his biggest line was a grunt. And I mean, saw him in Dune recently, and I thought he did okay in that. And I think it would lend itself well to Cronus slash Trapjaw.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dave Bautista for Trapjaw.
All right, here's a weird one. I know we've been picking on Marvel so much, but Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, that's an interesting choice too. Oh, I don't know how I would approach that.
Yeah.
It would be different, but
it would be way different.
I don't know. I think like it'd be interesting. I think he could pull it off. I don't know.
This is the thing too. It's like when you're casting a movie like this, it's like I said before, do you just go for big muscle bound guys, or do you go for people who can act? And I think when you're making a movie, the acting has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think with Motu, we think of it so much as all these characters being muscle, but really He-Man's the only one that's made of muscle. I mean, I know
he's the only one that needs to be.
Yeah, while all the other figures were used the same body back in the day, I think we've come far enough along in the brand that we realize that not everyone is meant to be a muscle character.
No, you're absolutely right.
You know, even though they're toys. I mean, look at the original Power of the Force 2, super muscle Luke Skywalker figure.
Well, I mean, and doesn't that just speak to the time that Andy and I have spoken about that many times, about that, early 1990s, Jim Lee, kind of everybody's got super big muscles and
Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
Pouches and wires.
Pouches, wires, and muscles.
Yeah, right. It's like that was a aesthetic of the time.
It sure was, yeah.
When you're reimagining the brand, it doesn't necessarily have to be like that.
No, I agree with you on that for sure. Well, this was a lot of fun, Scott. I'm going to leave you with one more, and this one I'm throwing in just for you, because if we were making your live action Masters of the Universe movie, I would expect to see the mighty Spector.
But I don't think I would have the. Maybe he would show up in some weird cameo. But I mean, obviously, if I was in charge of the universe, of course I'd put him in there. But
of course,
not in my movie, the one I wrote.
Yes,
but I'll still cast him for you.
Sure, yeah. Are
you going first, or am I going first?
Well, I was going to leave it for you. I do have a choice, but again, because he's a masked character, he could be anybody. So it's the do I recognize that voice or not?
Well, it's Ryan Reynolds. I mean,
Ryan. Oh wow, that's okay. That's good.
I mean, because when he pulls off the mask at some point, it's good. I mean, that's the only way you could do it.
That's right. And we'd all have the laugh together. That would be so good. I went a little bit similar vein, certainly not with the same comedic chops, but I went with Henry Cavill with Superman himself, thinking that, if he never takes the mask off and it's just Superman walking around, because, Henry Cavill can do subtle, but he can also do overt physicality, right? So yeah, I think he's a good choice.
Well, for mine, I went more direct. I thought, why not have you, Scott?
There you go.
Well, I can give you a million reasons why not to have me, but I'll take. Or if it was just a guy in a mask and you could do any kind of voiceover, doing the voiceover for having Michael J. Fox.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a great choice. That is a super good choice.
And then when he takes the mask off, it's Ryan Reynolds. That would be.
That would be like a double whammy joke.
It would be
good. I like that. Well, we've been talking with Scott Toy Guru Neitlich here at from Spector Creative on YouTube, and of course SpectorCreative.com. We've been talking about the live action Masters of the Universe movie. It's said to be starting filming sometime next year with the Nee brothers, who just completed their or are out doing the press tour for The Lost City. There's lots of comments coming out there on what it might be. They've given a couple of statements. We certainly here at Fandom Power are excited for what may be. I hope you guys are as well. And I want to send a big thank you to Scott for coming on the show today and talking with us. I know we had some some tech difficulties that we'll try and get sorted out in post. And yeah.
Awesome. All right. I will
Okay.
tell you back. This has been a blast as always.
There'll be lots more to come from us here at Fandom Power. So until next time, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
And we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Bye for now.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Fandom Power. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be talking about another one of your favorite fandoms. Fandom Power is a Sawcast production.